Hey guys, I hope you all are doing fine. Okay, so last time we talked about classes and how useful they are. If you haven't done it already, I highly recommend that you watch my previous video to really understand what we're going to talk about. If you already know about classes, well done. But if you have no idea what classes are, please go back and watch my previous video. I'll have it linked in a card above. Okay. So last time, just a quick recap, we discussed about how you can use different classes to achieve different functionality. But that is not where the story ends. When you create multiple classes, you want all of those classes to talk to each other. You want them to communicate, okay? And this is called, or you can call it script communication or class communication, and it is extremely important. You will find out more about this as we learn about different aspects of this story. And this is what it really is. It is a story. You need to understand this like a story. Okay, so today we will talk about access specifiers. Okay, now if you take a look at this file that I have here, oopconcepts.cs, there are a whole bunch of things here, but there is one very important word. It's called public. Public is an access specifier, obviously. Now, in programming languages which support object-oriented programming, we have this concept of access specifiers. What do we mean by access specifiers? The meaning of the name is in the name itself. We are specifying the access of every variable or method that we create. Okay, and a while ago I talked about script communication or class communication, and this is where it is useful. So let's do one thing. I will give you a very quick example. Okay, inside my class here, I'm going to create public integer, suppose, variable, and I will call this, I will initialize this to 7. Okay, now the only thing new over here is the introduction of this word public. We have been doing this since day one. Now what I'm also going to do is I'm going to create another class very quickly, another class, and I'm going to call this access specifier example. Okay, and it's ready. It's ready. And here we have the other class, access specifier example. Now don't worry about this whole Unity thing. I'm only using it to showcase the programming concepts, and really they are the same no matter what you use. Okay, so in this class we have this variable called public int variable 7. Now what I want to do, and what you will be doing mostly in object-oriented programming, is you will be using variables and methods created in other classes inside the class that you're currently working in. Now what advantage does this give? Well, you don't have to keep repeating things again and again. Try to notice this. When you're playing a game and your character dies, there is this thing called a death menu or something. A menu pops up. You know, it has options of whether you want to go back to the main menu, or you want to quit the game, or maybe you want to share your high score, or maybe you want to restart. A whole bunch of things. Different games have different options. But this is extremely common, a death menu. Now the programming of death menu is generally done in a class of its own, a class which contains other death menus. You know, you can go ahead and create a class and write the programming or write the code for all the menus that you can possibly have. It doesn't make sense to have that code spread out across your project. So one class that you will have for your menus, but you want that particular death menu to be called only when the player dies. So you will call that method at the time of player death, right? And player will be having its own class, and you will call this method of death menu from its class. So this is just one example, but you will come across more as we move on. So what we want to do is we want to allow access. We want to access this variable called variable in this particular class. So to do that, what I'm going to do is, now remember, my class is called OOP concepts. Okay? OOP concepts. Something weird just happened. I hope you noticed that. Okay, it's not really weird, but you know. OOP concepts. Now, in the current theme that I am using in Visual Studio, if you see words in yellow, it means a class. So this is the class that I created. And then I will also call it X. Wait a minute, what are you doing? This is like declaring a variable. Exactly. This is what is called a reference variable. The final type of variable which I had left out in my video of variables, I had said in that video that there is one more variable that is remaining, and it is this one. Reference variable, or also called as object. And that is why it is called object-oriented programming. Because really, all that we're doing is we're playing with objects. We're living in objects. One class creates or contains objects of another class, and that object can be used to refer to all the methods and variables stored in that class. That is why it's also called a reference variable, because we use it as a reference. Okay. Now, this is one of our starting methods. Don't worry about this. I will explain that when we get to it. Now, if I want to access this variable, all I have to do is x dot, and there we go. And I press enter. I can say call it set the value of 5. It is completely legitimate because this is public. Okay. If your variables and methods are public, they can be called from other classes by creating their objects and then calling the variables by using the dot operator. But now, if I was to change this to private, let's see what happens. Let's go back. There's a red squiggly line in Visual Studio, and what does that say? OOP concepts variable is inaccessible due to its protection level. What does that tell you? Well, it tells me that this variable is private. Therefore, what I learned from this is that private variables and methods can only be accessed inside the class that they were created, whereas public variables and methods can be accessed from literally any class that you create inside your project by doing this. Of course, it's not just as simple as directly taking or directly grabbing the name of the variable from that class. You need to create an object, and this object will now store references for everything that you do here. And now you can even modify this. Like we just modified it right now. We had initialized this to 7, but now here I have set the value of variable to 5. Okay, and this can be virtually done for even methods. I can even have methods in here, say public void m1. Okay, lines of code. What I'm going to do is right here, x dot, there we go. I can just as easily call the method over here because it is public. Okay, if I was to change this to private, it's going to give me a red squiggly line. Why? The same error is inaccessible due to its protection level. There is a third very common access specifier. It's called protected. But to understand protected, we must understand inheritance, which we will do in an upcoming video. So I hope you're understanding the story. We have learned how you can use multiple classes to contain multiple features or multiple functionalities. And now we have learned about script communication or class communication, how you can grab public variables and methods from one class and you can bring them into another class without virtually writing your entire piece of code again. This is a big time saver. Trust me when I say this. Creating objects and calling public variables and methods is a huge time saver. It just means that you don't have to do things again and again, especially if it's the same thing that you're doing. Okay, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. Now, I need to tell you guys something. If you're going outside, please wear a mask. A humble request, please wear a mask. Okay, thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it just as much as I enjoyed making it. This was really fun, talking about these things. It's one of my favorite things to do. Anyway, you can follow me on Instagram and check out my weekly video series called GameTalks, where I talk about games and game development. We go back and forth a little bit, just some information. Also, you can follow me on Twitter. Check out a whole bunch of other videos that I have done. You can visit my channel. If you liked the video, hit like. If you loved it, hit subs. You can even hit the bell icon next to the sub button so that you get notified whenever I do a new video. If you want to learn more about what's going on in our games industry, I have made a video on that with one of my colleagues. I highly recommend that you check it out if you're a least bit interested in playing games or even developing games, which is altogether awesome. All right, I hope you guys had a good time. See you guys later. Bye-bye.